For graduate students and academics, attending academic conferences is an important part of doing research. It can also be a life-changing experience, especially if you are a student and it's your first time attending one. I remember my first experience with attending an academic conference. I had written an abstract and I submitted it to a conference which was taking place in Mozambique in 2017. But my abstract got rejected. I took the same abstract and I submitted it to another conference which was taking place in Canada that same year, and I actually got in. So for my first conference, I actually traveled all the way to Canada, and it was indeed a life-changing experience. I meet so many fellow researchers, both international and fellow South African scholars. In fact, the South African scholars invited me to a conference which was taking place later in that same year. So I ended up not only attending an international conference, but also a local conference subsequent to that. And the trip was definitely worth it because the article that I wrote for the Canada conference actually ended up being my first journal article which I published. There are thus a variety of good reasons to attend academic conferences as early career researchers and or graduate students, but people often don't know the ins and outs of how to get to them. In this video, I'm going to talk a bit about academic conferences, how to get into them, why people attend them, and how to fund your travels. There are a variety of reasons to attend conferences, but one of the most common reasons which people will give is networking. As with any other occupation, in academia you need good references, and the better the quality of your networks, the better the quality of your references. In academia, references are a big deal, and the more prominent your references are, the better the opportunity of you gaining subsequent opportunities for jobs or fellowship opportunities which may come up. Good references are an indication of a good reputation, and the more people you can get to vouch for you, the better. This is why networking and building relationships are so important, and conferences are a really great place where you can build the breadth and the depth of your networks. Conferences are a good opportunity to promote your work as well. If no one knows about your work, there's no point in doing it. There are many ways of promoting your work, such as making media appearances or writing op-eds. But conferences are a good way of making your work known to an expert audience. This is a key aspect in academia because you want your work to be known by and accessible to as many people as possible, and conferences are an opportune time to do that. When you promote your work, you also make way for the possibility of future collaborations with people who may be working in similar areas as you, and this again feeds into the growth of your network. Getting feedback on your work is a great benefit of attending conferences. At conferences, people will tend to attend sessions where they have similar interests to the presenters. That way you get experts to give you feedback on your work, and you also get to improve your work. Additionally, this also allows you to gather differing perspectives on your work. So someone who may be living in a different context and working on the same type of problem you may be working on may have a different take on what you've taken on your work. This will also help you to think differently about your work going forward and gather counter arguments that can strengthen yours. Work presented at conferences are generally pieces of work that have not been published yet. So it's a great way to see what people are currently working on, and that way you sort of remain on the cutting edge of where your discipline is going. This is also a good way to gauge where the research in your field is moving towards and to adjust your research objectives and plans accordingly. So how does one attend a conference? First, you need to find one. A good way to find conferences is through associations. Some of the associations that I can think of as an economist include the Economic Society of South Africa, the International Association for Feminist Economics, the American Economic Association, the Association for the Advancement of African Women Economists, the Association for Social Economics. The list goes on, you name it. Many disciplines have their own associations. Some have a national focus, some have a global focus, and some are even interdisciplinary. And the type of people who belong to these organizations are not only academics, it also includes people who work in industry, people who work for governments, NGOs, and international organizations. Many, but not all of these associations have their own conferences that they host. Some will also share details on conferences that share similar objectives to them. So a good way of finding conferences is to actually sign up for the mailing lists of these associations. And if you can, join the associations. Sometimes there may be a fee to pay and sometimes it may be free of charge. That, by the way, is another way of growing your network, is getting involved with associations that are in line with your disciplinary objectives. There are also websites which regularly list conferences in different places. Some of these include allconferencealerts.com, but it's important that you make sure that you look out for predatory conferences. Once you have identified a suitable conference, you'll usually find information on the conference website about how to make a submission. If you are a student, it's best to ask your supervisor to help you with this, as they will usually have experience with this process. So conference organizers will usually request that you submit either an abstract or a full paper that aligns with one or more of the conference themes that they have identified. So in order to ensure that you have the best possible chance of having your submission approved, it's important to make sure that there is an element in your abstract or in your full paper that aligns with the themes of the conference. Sometimes conferences have PhD symposiums as well, which is really useful if you are a PhD student who's still at proposal stage, but they don't always have these. They may also have additional training or workshops before or after the conference for emerging researchers, early career researchers, or sometimes even graduate students. So look out for those. So you found your conference, you submitted your abstract, and it got accepted. Now you need to think about how you're going to get there. So there are a variety of ways that you can fund conference travel. As a student, I would recommend that your supervisor should be your first port of call. Supervisors sometimes not always have money, and you can actually ask them whether they have money to support your travel. And if they don't, whether they can show you where you can look to apply for money. Sometimes conferences will also have funding available for early career researchers, graduate students, scholars from the Global South, so be sure to be on the lookout for that on the conference website, but it won't always be there. But before you even go looking for funding, make sure that you know how much money you need so that you cover all your bases. You will usually, but not always, need money for the following items: a return flight, accommodation, subsistence, the conference registration fee, a visa if necessary, and ground transport, so that you are able to move between your accommodation, the conference venue, and the airport. Make sure you work out the cost of all of these items before you start applying for funding, so you know how much money you need. Use websites such as booking.com, TravelStart, embassy websites, etc. to get a sense of how much this is going to cost you. Once you know how much you need, you'll find that there are a variety of ways that you can fund your travels, and these can include funding bodies both inside and outside your own institution. So, you've made it, you're there, it's the first day of the conference. Make sure you don't waste this opportunity. Attend as many presentations as you can, meet as many people as you can, read people's papers so that you can ask them intelligent questions during the question and answer segment, and remember to have some fun as well. If you're traveling internationally, there's a good chance that you'll only get to visit a particular country once in your life. So make sure that you do some research beforehand on the most important sites that are close to the conference venue, and make time to see it during your free time. If you are unable to travel for whatever reason, many conferences now also offer hybrid or fully online options. So you can still do your presentations and get your feedback, although the experience will be a little bit different. If your goal is to get feedback on your work, then don't sleep on an opportunity to present your work online. So there you have it. Tell us a bit about your conference experience in the comments below. Remember to like this video and subscribe to my channel. Bon voyage!